Hi, my name is Carrie, and I'm here with Robert, who does the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, which include canals, churches, cemeteries, reservoirs, parks, and streets in Holyoke, Chicopee, and South Hadley, Mass. You can find his website with all his information and tours on holyokecanaltour.org, and his email, which is bobcat4214B@yahoo.com. Again, that's BOBCAT4214B@yahoo.com. So we're going to be talking about the Immaculate Conception Church campus. What is the history of the Immaculate Conception Church of Holyoke, Mass?
The history is such that it serves the French-Canadian population of Holyoke. It was not the first such church. The Precious Blood Church of Holyoke in the South Holyoke neighborhood was the first French-Canadian church. Immaculate Conception wasn't even the second. The second was the Perpetual Help Church that was along Pulaski Park. And that was, at that point, called Prospect Park. It was a beautiful church. And that was made in 1890. But in 1902, finally, it came around, and so we had the Immaculate Conception Church. And it wasn't even the one that most people know. It was a brick church across the street from the large church that everyone knew about, the Immaculate Conception. And that brick church was a mission style that it ran off of the same pastor that controlled the Perpetual Help Church. And he would come down there on Sunday and serve the Mass. It was actually in the basement of this building. It was a great sight. I had been in that small building many times. And it was incredible until about 5 years ago when they took it down. They figured out that some of the bricks towards the middle were having too much stress on them and the building might collapse. So they took the whole building down, and it was over 110 years old. What a sight. But in the 1920s, the big Immaculate Conception Church was finally made, and that was made in such a grand style. Many people consider it to be a beautiful Gothic cathedral. Well, in fact, to be Gothic, you have to have no metal, no wood in the sides of the church. But this one did have metal beams, so it's a neo-Gothic church. It also had a school associated with it. At first they used the East Dwight Street School, and then they built one next to the church. And Immaculate Conception even had for 10 years a high school. They had a convent across the street. And these buildings lasted for decades and decades, and so it became a very popular church. Next question.
How was the campus added to the last neighborhood of Holyoke?
I think it has added to that neighborhood. It was two churches in this neighborhood. The two churches were the Holy Rosary Church, which was built in 1886, and Immaculate Conception, which was 1902. And they both added to the neighborhood because it became a very residential neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is very close to canals number 1 and 2 of the Holyoke Canal system, and they're very close to many of the paper mills. The Irish were building houses around the Rosary Church, and the French Canadians would build tenement houses or homes around the Immaculate Conception Church. And of course, you got to have things like little stores around, pharmacies, and those would serve the people greatly. I was very happy to know this neighborhood, and a lot of people loved being down there. Next question.
So what personal connection do you have to the school?
Well, for 6 years, this was my elementary school. So from 1966, and for 6 years onwards, I went to the Immaculate Conception School. By then, it was coming to the end of its years of existence. It would close in 1989, but it still had the original nuns there, which were the Sisters of the Presentation of Mary, and I had many nuns. And we got to go into every building. In fact, every year, the students there would have a task where on Friday, they would let us out of class 20 minutes early, and we'd have a task to clean up a given part of the campus. One year my task was to sweep the porch on the back of the convent. Another year my task was to clean the front porch of the rectory and the entry room to the rectory. Another year, my task was to clean up the grounds and pick up litter. Another year, I had to clean up the stairwells of the Immaculate School. So I got a great interest in going around the campus. And I also love being there because I love the canals, I still do, and I love all the old mills that grew up around there. A lot of businesses were still there, but they started to die out. And a lot of the pharmacies and homes started to die out then. So it was a great changes during the 1970s that I saw.
So why is it important to preserve this campus?
I think it's important to preserve what is left. The original church was taken down 5 years ago. The second church, which was the Grand Gothic Church, was taken down 12 years ago. So both churches are gone. The school is left, the convent is left, the rectory is left. The rectory, that is the original rectory, but it was moved. It used to be within 5 feet of the sidewalk. It was moved about 100 feet backwards a long time ago when a big church came in. But that rectory is gorgeous. The convent is very well made, and the school is a very unique feel to it. It's the only French-Canadian elementary school left in Holyoke, and it's a very strong make. It's going to turn about 100 years old, I think, next year. So it's still in great shape. So I hope there are groups that want to preserve it into the future. So I'm very happy I could talk about this school and this church. I went to the church there at least once a month. I went to school there again for 6 years, and so I love this neighborhood greatly. Thank you.
Well, thank you for talking to us about that. And again, he does the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, which include both public and private tours. You can find out more information at holyokecanaltour.org, which is his website. And you can also email him at bobcat4214 capital B at yahoo.com. Again, that's BOBCAT4214 capital B at yahoo.com. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Camus. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yes, and this is one of my past charities for those tours.
So today he'll be educating us on the Holyoke House of Holyoke. So what does Holyoke House in Holyoke do?
All right. Well, Holyoke House Holyoke is a location where students can go after school and get help for the homework they have. The test scores of Holyoke and the education level at Holyoke is very low, so they try to help these students out and make it better for them to learn. Now, I'm going to talk about their 4 locations around the city, and also why I selected them as a charity, and then explain why it's important to have them in Holyoke. But Holyoke House Holyoke helps students from the 1st grade up, I believe, to the 6th grade, and what they do is they try to get them to keep on track with their studies in all different subjects, and to thus improve their academic skills. A lot of the students have great academic skills, but some don't. And a lot of people in the suburbs and rural location, when they go home, can get help from their parents on subjects. But in Holyoke, that might not be true. It might be a single-family household where the mother or father will be at work a lot also, and there's no one to help them out or structure their life. Or maybe the parent's just not good at given academic subjects, and they need help. And so what they've done is they've really intensified, and they really depend upon charity a lot. Their main location is 54 North Summer Street, but we're going to talk about locations next.
So what are their locations?
Okay, so around Holyoke, Holyoke House Holyoke is located at... Here. What was that? You want me to answer? Why not? Why not? Okay, the 4 locations around Holyoke, they try to spread them out around different neighborhoods, and so the main one is on North Summer Street, at the former Immaculate Conception Rectory. And that is a place where also students can meet. Now in the flats also they have another place, and this is at the flats neighborhood house, the former Portuguese American house, and this is on Canal Street. And this is their newest location where they try to build up their skills as much as possible. And since a lot of children live in that neighborhood, especially going to the Kelly School, they need a lot of help there. Now, the next location is in the Sacred Heart Auditorium, or Our Lady of Guadalupe Auditorium, which is on Chestnut Street. And there, that serves the Churchill neighborhood. A lot of residents in the neighborhood, of course, a lot of children there. And they try to improve their academic skills at that location also. And then the fourth location is at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. In there, they meet in the Civic Center that's in the back of the church location. And since that's also a very academic, very residential neighborhood, they need academic skill improvement there too. So these locations are very important. They rent space everywhere they go at a low price, but they still have to pay for the administration, to pay for supplies at each location, and for maintenance. And these add up. And so, even if you have 200 children going in each year, that's still a lot of material you're going to be ended up needing. So they depend a lot upon charity. They run charitable events and events in general to get money inwards, and they're very frugal. But of course they always need more.
And so quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. In there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour, and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they're perfect for fun, educational, outdoor activities for the whole family, or for your special occasions, group parties, and get-togethers. They're also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, why did you select them as a charity?
Okay, 4 years ago, I had them in the year 2019 as a charity where on my tours or presentations I would ask people if they could please donate to a charity around Holyoke. And each year I changed the charity. In that year it was House Holyoke. And what they did was they didn't go to their website, or they'd hand in a check through the postal service, and they try to help the institution. And I always change my institutions every year. I always make it one that are near the canals of Holyoke, and I always make it one where they're trying to help the younger people of Holyoke. And for 9 years I've been able to do this and have different institutions. And in the next few years I'll have more. And this also helps people know that an institution like this is around the city. For 9 years I've done it. This year, 2023. 7 of the 9 institutions were well known to people on my tours. 2 were not. And Homework House Holyoke is one of those 2 that was not well known what they did. So not only did they gain money and charity from the people on my tours, but they also gained knowledge of the institution being around. I told all people where the locations were at that point. 3 of the locations were in place by that year, 2019. And so they also get a good reputation going around. Yeah.
And so, why is this necessary in Holyoke?
Okay, it's important to have this in Holyoke because imagine how hard it is to learn if you don't have a structured environment at home, or if the schools might teach a certain way and you want to learn a different way. And you can build up by having a tutor. Usually it'll be adult tutor, but it can also be a young teen tutor. And imagine having this resource to go to. The 4 or 5 locations to go to, you can really depend upon that and grow. you could be good in 5 or 6 subjects, and you need help in say math. A lot of people are that way, and so that little help can boost you upwards. In this program, they try to also not only get donations, they also try to get adults to donate their time if they know one of the major academic subjects. They can help these children develop, and of course, all tutors are not paid. So if you donate your time, just 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, and show up at one location, then you really can help a lot of people if you continue doing this throughout the academic year. So it's a fine institution, and I hope that they keep going and prospering.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. And we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can also tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and when they become available. Thank you for tuning in.